So I think what I'm seeing is that homeowners are starting, or potential home buyers are starting to wake up to the reality of the market, that it can't be timed. There is a cost of waiting. So if we're in a great market like Sacramento, a neighborhood like yours might increase 5% every year. So the cost of waiting is I think is greater than anything that an interest rate can lend to.
On this episode of the Thoughtful Realtor in Sacramento, I'm joined by Cam Villa, co-owner of Golden Bay Mortgage Group. And Cam is also the most gracious host of the House Keys podcast here in Sacramento. And is that through Sacramento Association of Realtors, or is that?
Yes, that is through the Sacramento Association of Realtors. It was like a one in a million shot. The original host switched jobs, left the SAR, and I literally ran up the stairs and I asked them, "Can I have this position as the podcast host?" I just threw it out there. I didn't think in a million years that they would say yes to it, and I told them I would do all the work. I just needed like an engineer to help me, and they said, "Go for it."
And I've actually been a guest on your show.
Yes.
I love your show. It's very entertaining. I think that you bring a real down to earth, relatable element to the podcast
Yeah.
that, it's like, it's fun too. So I had a great time on your show.
I think one of the items that I really try to put out there is I want to do research on the guests, and I said it to you, and I say it to all of them. Like, the show was literally about you, and I want members to meet you and want to interact with you, and that whole connection, I think, is what builds our database and our real estate. Like, when they hear something that you do, knowing that you are an attorney, like that
Mhm.
part would wow anyone that would hear an episode like that. But it's that kind of connection that I enjoy with the podcast.
So let's talk a little bit about how you got into, I know you're a Sacramento native, Cam. How did you actually get into the mortgage business and the real estate business?
So originally, I had graduated from college, and I wasn't really in a career that was like something that I wanted to do. I was actually in the pyrotechnics business. So I worked for a company called American Promotional Events, which is like Red Devil Freedom Fireworks. So all
Mm.
the stands that you see in Sacramento. And a gentleman called me named David Casano and offered me a position as his loan assistant. And he just flat out told me it was a really stressful job. There was a lot of moving parts, tons of stuff going on. I think he was trying to kind of scare me out of it. And I was coming from an industry that was already, we were talking about people getting lit on fire and explosives and stuff like that. So everything he was telling me didn't sound, as scary. And I took a shot at it. And that was, if we're in 2026, that was almost 25 years ago. And I learned so much just from that initial mortgage position. But I was a loan assistant at first, and then I became a loan processor, which is like a nurse in a hospital. Everyone loves the nurse, right? The one that kind of takes care of you and
Yes.
and does the extra listening, and the one that you remember. And then when I started my company, I finally kind of said I really want to be a loan officer and be a little bit more forward facing. So I had already owned a mortgage company as a processor, and then I became a loan officer in my second mortgage company that I owned, which is the one today, Golden Bay Mortgage Group.
And how many employees do you have?
Oh, I think we have over 40. I want to
Wow.
say 42 employees. Really, at the end of the day, we have like a staff of about 8 operations folks that are our employees, and then the rest of them are loan officers. And we do have a few realtors, but our main focus is loans in California.
And Cam, you grew up in Sacramento. Tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about where you grew up and your
yeah.
connection here.
I grew up in the Arden area. So, one, my
Oh.
mom was a kindergarten teacher at Meriam Elementary in Arden Park. And, if you're in that Arden area, everyone knows like the neighborhood of Arden Park. But I just had the best upbringing. I literally grew up right next to the school that I went to that my mom taught at. So, I'd like to think that I just had the best childhood. I come from a blended family. So, I have great stepsisters. and a sister and a brother. So there's 6 of us. But I grew up in the Arden area. I went to Rio Americano. I've always lived in Sacramento. I went off to Chico State for college, but came back to this area, and I really enjoy Sacramento, all parts. I'd love one day maybe to be back out in the Arden area. I'd love to have a pool. But
It's
that
so hot here. Isn't
it really is.
Crazy.
And like I keep telling myself, I want a pool before my kid gets too old and we don't use it anymore. So that's kind of like one of the goals, like a house with a pool.
And I feel like I relate to you so much because we both grew up in Sacramento.
Yeah.
You went to Rio, I went to Encina High School. And so we just have like deep roots here and just such a connection to the local community. And I know you're really involved in a lot of local volunteer organizations. And you're also an aspiring triathlete. Is that right?
Aspiring, I think, is the main word in that one. This weekend, Sunday, is my first race.
Oh my
So it's my
goodness.
first triathlon. It's called a sprint, so it's a lot shorter. I think I'm not, we are not doing Ironmans out here. I'm not that kind of triathlete. I like doing the sprints. So I think this is a half-mile swim, a 16-mile bike ride, and a 3-mile run. So this is like the first one that I'm going to do. 1 year ago, I got off a plane after a vacation and I said that I had to lose weight. I had to take my health seriously. So what's really cool, and I didn't even think about the dates, but it's exactly 1 year since I kind of made that commitment to be more active.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really respect that because there's no way I feel like there's no way I could train for even a sprint, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that really triathlons might kind of be for everyone. I keep telling myself you just have to be okay at everything. Um, and I think as we get older, strength is never a weakness in anything that we try. And I keep telling myself that, like, as long as you're learning and you're getting better at it, how can that ever be a weakness in any scenario?
Just like 1% a day of improvement in
That would be a
anything,
lot,
right?
right? Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
So, Cam, because you're a mortgage expert, can you give us a little bit of an overview on what is going on
Yeah,
with residential mortgages right now? What are you seeing in the market?
yeah.
Where do you think it's going?
I think there's this continual downward press of where we want the interest rates to be. I think that's everyone across the board. Unfortunately, no one's in control of those rates on a micro level. But these rates have been the same pretty much for the last, we're almost going on 4 years at being at that kind of that 6.5, maybe a little bit lower percentage. Um, so I think what I'm seeing is that homeowners are starting, or potential home buyers are starting to wake up to the reality of the market that it can't be timed. There is a cost of waiting. So if we're in a great market like Sacramento, a neighborhood like yours might increase 5% every year. So the cost of waiting is I think is greater than anything that an interest rate can lend to. Probably the biggest thing that seeing is that it takes two parties uh, to create a prosperous home buyer, and that's a realtor and a lender. I don't think either one of us can do it alone anymore. It's frustrating to do it alone. I think that that's the real partnership part that is going to kind of push this over the hill.
Yeah, and I think as a realtor, whoever you work with as a lender is critically important because, you know, that buyer or client, whoever you're representing, is depending on that person
Yeah.
to provide them with options and guide that part of the transaction. What I'm seeing in the market is a lot of homes seem to be sitting for longer than they were last year.
Yeah.
And I think the combination of interest rates and maybe world events is really causing people to kind of pause and not move forward. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, if I was a home owner in the position of having to sell my house, I think I would be frustrated to hear those comments on why I possibly have to lower what I think my home is valued at,
Mm-hmm.
right? If someone told me the world is happening, is all this stuff in the world's going down and interest rates are terrible, I think that you should lower your property by X amount. That would frustrate me as a homeowner. But I also think the best job that you guys get to do as realtors is you can take someone that's going to sell their house, and if they say, I believe it is worth $600,000, well, let's go see another $600,000 house in the neighborhood and make those comparisons. The position of someone selling their house, people have been holding their homes for a lot longer. We're in this period that the last 6 years, there's been no reason to even think about selling your home.
2.99%, right?
There's no reason to sell your home. So I think people are not understanding of what the process looks like to sell a home.
Yeah, and I think you really hit it on the head though when you said that, it's not a time to be sitting on the sidelines. It's like, the rate is what it is. And I think the numbers show that the longer you wait, the equity that you're losing out on is going to put you behind.
Yes.
So I always encourage my buyers. It's like, buy what you can right now.
Buy what you can. Buy what you can. And I live in an affordable neighborhood. And I think part of buying what you can, the trade-off of that is you have an opportunity to be involved in your community from day one.
We have little dips and bumps and stuff, but I think it's a great overall real estate market here in our community.
It's interesting to say that the average price in Sacramento is still under 600,000, right? That just seems like such an astronomical number, but you hit it in the scope of California and what's available. That is considered affordability in our region. And I love when people visit Sacramento for the first time, or even consider Sacramento to be their eventual home. That probably is what brings me the most excitement when I get to talk to potential homeowners, is them telling me that they are moving to Sacramento.
Yeah, I think overall it's a great place to be and grow up and live. Can you give us some of your thoughts on, guiding buyers who are going through the mortgage loan process or just even thinking about purchasing a home? What are some essential steps that you would recommend that they do right now?
I think two big things that I really want potential homeowners to recognize is it's never too early to get started. That's probably the biggest thing that I see is don't go out and fall in love with a home first and then find out about your financing.
I hate that.
How many times do you want to get your heart broken? You know what I mean? So it's never too early to start. And that means picking a lender that you want to work with. And that could be a Bank of America. That could be a credit union. That could be a mortgage broker. You got to find your person, your people. The other part is it doesn't cost anything to get pre-approved. And it may be a credit report that might cost $100, but there's no cost or money that exchanges hands in that pre-approval process.
And what is a pre-approval?
Yeah, a pre-approval, and that's the word that you want to hear. You want to hear pre-approval. You got to give a little skin in the game on a pre-approval. And what a pre-approval is you have to take some form of a loan application. It might be called a loan questionnaire, but you're giving some personal information about your employment, your assets, liabilities that show on credit, and then just personal info. Where have you lived over the last 2 years? Name, date of birth, all that good stuff. And then we're going to ask for some documentation. Most people are W-2'd salaried, right? So we're talking about W-2s, pay stubs, IDs. Let's talk about where the down payment might come from. And that could be assets, 401k. It could be a gift from an immediate family member. And then if you're self-employed, it's even easier. We're talking tax returns. So you gather all of those items, do a review, and then there'll be a credit check. That's probably the most intimate thing that happens in the pre-approval process, is that you're having your credit reviewed. Some people are very defensive about it, but it's a very major step in the process. I think that the lender can also be the first step in increasing your credit score if need be. That's probably the biggest point of advice that I'll give potential homeowners is you are in control of your reputation and your credit. Those are the two things that you are king of.
Guard them carefully.
Guard them. Don't co-sign. Don't do anything silly. Take time when you're, thinking about maybe filling out a credit application or something. If you got, I don't want to. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of like the Dave Ramsey stuff, but if you don't have the cash to pay for it, it might not be the best move forward. But the ability to start the pre-approval process early, again, is huge. Your pre-approval doesn't necessarily expire either. I think a lot of people think that you have this limited 90 days, 120 days. Really, as long as you're not out there opening a bunch of credit cards and you're updating your loan officer with any changes in your employment, maybe in your down payment, your pre-approval stands. And that's probably one of the best parts, because it might take a year, maybe even 2 years to find a house or a neighborhood that you really want to move into. But again, what is the cost of waiting?
And as a realtor, from my point of view, the point you made is be prepared and get pre-approved, because I can't tell you how many times I'm at open houses and, people will walk in and they're like, yeah, we're looking for a house. And I ask them, oh, great. Are you cash or financing?
Yeah.
Have you talked to a lender? And they say no.
Yeah.
And I just say, it's like going shopping for candy at a candy store with no money. So it's really critical to have a pre-approval. And as a realtor, if I'm going to represent a buyer, if I'm going to submit an offer, I need that pre-approval letter to submit with my offer to show these buyers have been, pre-qualified. They're able to get this loan. I mean, otherwise, the seller isn't really going to take those people seriously.
And, I think the struggle for realtors is you try to be as professional as possible and make sure that your time is valuable. So there's a whole group of realtors that might not interact with this buyer that's not pre-approved. But then you have a whole other group that would gladly take anyone out for the opportunity of a transaction. So I think you're going to get both sides. I don't know what the kind of the linkage is to how to push them towards that, but from the realtor standpoint, it's obviously having a close relationship with a group of lenders. You should have a few lenders under your belt.
Agreed.
I know a lot of them will say, hey, I can do everything, but I can't do everything. And I don't really want to do everything. And I think that's probably like the specialty of lenders.
I respect that. I completely agree that you need more than one lender as a realtor. And it's our job to guide our clients.
Yeah.
And, I love working with people, even if they walk in and say, no, I'm not pre-approved. Okay, well, let's get you started on the journey. And here are some people you can talk to. Do you know how much you can afford? So I feel like it's my job and your job too to kind of guide these people as they come in.
A lot of the time it's your client, right? Initially, because I can't change the flow of the river. I say this all the time, like real estate is so sexy that there's no reason that anyone would call me first when they see a house that they love or a realtor that they like.
Yeah.
It's just, that river's never going to change. I am literally just a passenger on the boat, but I want to help steer and guide them down what I think is a really stressful process.
Very. And can you tell us a little bit about what are maybe some programs that you have for people that just don't think that they can get a house?
Yeah. And one, I mainly like to work with first-time home buyers or people that are downsizing or maybe changing their environment that they've been in for a long time. Like those are my two favorite because it's very emotional and you do have to like make a connection to this realistic financial part of the transaction. So for first-time home buyers, which is anyone that has not owned a home or been on title in the last 3 years. And that's for a home. You can be on title of land and it still counts as a first-time home buyer.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah. It's great.
They're like, I've owned a home 10 years ago.
I had one where a mom put her daughter on a piece of land and the daughter was trying to do a first-time home buyer program and the daughter thought she was doomed and it was like a big, huge fight. And I didn't even know the guideline at that time, but that's like our business too. It's like just takes one time and it's like that rule has been burned into my head. But for first-time home buyer programs, you have a minimum of 3% down for a conventional loan program. There's also like some income-based programs, and those are regarding the zip code that you live in. So every county in the United States has an available income medium that they determine, and some of that is if you're under 80% or 100% of the medium income, there's certain loan programs that are available to you at a lower cost. FHA loans are always a great loan program for first-time home buyers, but anyone can use an FHA loan. And then we also have down payment assistance. The state of California has a great down payment assistance program. It's called CalHAFA. But even more, and what I really hope that people look into, is the state of California has over 300 down payment assistance programs, county specific. Even SAR has NAR has a $10,000 grant for certain kinds of loan.
And NAR is National Association of Realtors.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I know we speak in acronyms. I'm just blurting them off, and people are like, what is this guy talking about?
No, it's okay.
First-time home buyers are afforded essentially a minimum amount down. So every once in a while, I run into a first-time home buyer that's putting 20% down, and then they'll say, Cam, what are my first-time home buyer options? And I already tell them they're so far ahead of the curve by putting that amount down that there really are not necessarily first-time home buyer programs available when you're putting that much.
Because FHA is what, 2.5%?
3.5%.
Okay.
But you can pair FHA and some of these programs with down payment assistance. I think one of the biggest things available to me and you at our disposal is seller credits. You said it right there that houses are sitting longer. Like, we need to use that to our advantage. When I bought my first house, I actually raised the purchase price and asked for the credits back in order to pay for my closing costs and down payments. Because a lot, if homes are sitting from the seller side, the issue that I see from the buyer side is lack of down payment.
And so to remedy that, just so I'm clear, you can ask a seller, I want you to credit money back to me for my closing costs.
Yeah, up to 3% in certain minimum stances. And then as you're putting more down, you can ask for higher amounts.
So like at 20% down, is it 6%?
Yeah,
or that's the maximum credit?
That's the maximum credit, which that can be used to pay for closing costs. And it can also be used to purchase the interest rate down, whether that's permanent or a temporary buy down. But I can't remember the last time I haven't seen a transaction that didn't have some form of a seller credit. You don't want to depend on it, right? Like if you're in that, because I've been there too, where we needed the seller credit in order to bridge the gap of a down payment. But it's been a long time since I haven't seen some form of a seller credit.
And I think the important point that we want to get across is it's doable. It's doable. People think that buying a home is impossible. And I just want to encourage people out there there's a lot of noise in the media and just in general saying, oh, it's impossible. It's impossible. No, it is possible. You might not be able to get your dream home initially exactly as you want it, but it's possible.
I think that anything that you believe that you can do takes some form of a sacrifice. And I think homeownership is one of those. What's the sacrifice? Maybe you're not going out as much. Maybe you're learning how to cook. Maybe you are pulling back on some of the items that you're purchasing. It is a sacrifice. It's a budgetary sacrifice. It's also, I think the hardest part is it's almost impossible for someone to save 20% nowadays. So how do you bridge that? And I think that's that minimum down opportunity. It's a trade-off. You're putting less down, so the lender may raise the rate, or there's obviously mortgage insurance involved when you put less than 20% down. And
tell us what that is.
Yes.
Real quick.
So mortgage insurance, I come from the system that I think mortgage insurance is a very powerful tool for potential home buyers.
Because no one likes it, really.
No one likes it. So what mortgage insurance is you, the home purchaser, are paying an insurance premium towards the lender covering their risk in investing in you. And if for some reason that you were unable to pay and you walked away from the home, the lender would exercise this insurance policy to cover their losses. It's a way of thinking that if you're only putting 3% down. Who's putting the 97% down? And that's the lender. So mortgage insurance is required when you are putting less than 20% down as your down payment. But again, I think that you're talking to maybe about it's either come up with 15 or 18 more percent of the difference, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars if we're talking about California, or maybe it's a couple $100 payment a month in order to bridge that gap as you gain equity. And as you gain equity and you reach this 20% on a conventional loan, you can remove the mortgage insurance. On an FHA loan, it is permanent when you're putting less than that 10, 11% down mark. So that's kind of the trade-off of those loan programs.
So mortgage insurance, except for FHA for the most part, is not permanent. You can get out of it as you build up equity. And I think I did that with my first house as it gained equity. And I think you mentioned 80 to 20% ratio. So once you've got 20% of equity in your house, you can actually ask for the mortgage insurance to be removed.
Absolutely.
So that'll save you some money.
And then I think also like investment wise that, it is dependent on the neighborhood sometimes where I like to tell people that you might have mortgage insurance probably for the next 5 years. I would think that is a fair amount. I've seen people get in out of it as quick as 2 years. But it determines kind of the area and the value of those homes.
What are some of the unique things that you like about the different neighborhoods in Sacramento? What are some of your favorite neighborhoods? Mm-hmm. Where do you like to spend your time?
So like I said earlier, I grew up in Arden Park. Arden Park to me is like the quintessential suburban neighborhood. I love the ranch homes. Obviously, some of the homes are different now in Arden Park. People have been building up, but I love the ranch style homes, the big front yards, the big backyards, riding your bikes around. Now I live in Colonial Heights, so I'm a big fan of kind of these urban neighborhoods that are close to downtown. I like that. I never grew up with sidewalks, so that's interesting to me. So I like neighborhoods that have sidewalks in them. They're very walkable. One thing I think Sacramento sometimes lacks the bike safety part. I would like to maybe be in an environment that I can ride my bike a little bit safer in the areas. I'd love to teach my daughter how to ride her bike a little bit more. I love Land Park. I like neighborhoods that seemingly sometimes seem closed off, but literally they're 1 or 2 streets away from the hustle and bustle. Southside Park is a neighborhood that I don't, necessarily hear a lot of people talk about, but I like being in that environment where you might have a big festival in the park one day, live music, lots of sounds.
Yeah, have fun.
Yeah. I do see, Natomas and El Grove are obviously extremely popular. I don't think those neighborhoods are necessarily on the top of my list. I never lived in like a neighborhood that kind of had new construction or new builds. Mm-hmm. Natomas reminds me a lot of that. And then I've never lived in like a kind of a rural to city more area like Elk Grove. So I don't know if I'm necessarily I'm not drawn to those areas as much, but you can't have that conversation about Sacramento or home buyers without bringing up Natomas and Elk Grove.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I actually have a buyer in contract on a house in Natomas Park right now. And I am just amazed at how low the HOAs are there. And everything's new. The clubhouse is gorgeous.
The clubhouse.
It's just a great environment, especially for families.
Schools. I mean, I think that my wife was a school board trustee. I think that we're big on public schools. It's just part of our environment that we're in right now. But Natomas has such a strong educational option, whether you want to do charter schools or stay within the Sac City or the Natomas school district. It's just an extraordinary environment. I can't say enough good things about Natomas. I've always had my business in Natomas.
Your office is there now?
My office is all Golden Bay Mortgage Group. We did a little small stint in downtown, but literally our clientele would tell us, you know what, I haven't driven in downtown in 5 years and I'm not about to do it today.
Right.
So we moved our offices out to Natomas. Most of the Golden Bay folks, employees, loan officers, they live in Natomas. It's a great area to raise your family. Mm-hmm. But again, I joke like, what color beige is your house?
Because they're all, a
in
lot
the
of them are
colors.
beige, right?
My house is 100 years old. When I walk my streets, there's not a lot of cars on the streets. When I go to these new construction places, they're 5-bedroom, 3-bath houses. Every family has 7 cars. The streets are lined with cars.
And sidewalks.
Absolutely.
And so we talked about being prepared as a buyer, getting pre-approved, talking to a lender, talking to more than one lender, is absolutely critical. And it's not as scary as you think it is. There's a lot of programs out there for people.
There's a lot of programs. I think that you want to be in a safe environment to ask questions. I think that's the biggest thing. You want someone that's going to listen to you.
And what about people going through transitions? You said you like working with buyers that are maybe downsizing, or what's unique about their situation?
I think really the most unique thing that you can do is having the opportunity to work with realtors that specialize in things like probate and divorce, like things that take like legal like for you, for instance, like you want to work with a realtor that is extremely knowledgeable about those items. Sometimes as the lender, we have to know the story beforehand, so I can be able to let you know, hey, we have to get this document for this guideline. But when you're working with a realtor that is actively have knowledge about a probate and can tell you what's going on in the time frame, it makes my job as a lender very easy. I'm trying to connect this contractual obligation, and I'm trying to connect it to a financial transaction that sometimes is based on numbers and guidelines that are already set forth that you and I can't change. So to me, working with anyone that is downsizing, going through life changes, divorces, you can't say enough about having a good realtor as a partner in that environment. That's what makes it work.
Yeah, I think to your point with, for example, probates, coordinating like with the lender is extremely important. If you have a seller who has a probate going on and there's probate approval required, that could potentially delay the closing. There could be other issues involved. There could be a court bidding process involved. So just having a team of people that can collaboratively work together well is so important.
I had a probate where the buyer was one of the children and wanted to use a gift of equity as the down payment, but we weren't able, you can't, all parts being equal in the distribution, we couldn't do it that way. So we had to lower the overall purchase price for him to be able to take those and remove him from the probate money in order for him to take those funds.
And did everyone agree, all of the heirs? Because a lot of times they don't.
And that's what, and you hit it right there. It's the children part of it.
Yeah.
It's because these children want it done. It's such an emotional transaction. Yes. They are selling mom's house or the house they grew up in, and they all want a piece. And most likely, as you know, in probate, like usually these kids are living in the house when these things are going down, and a lot of them claim ownership of these homes from just being in that environment, and now you got to separate them through all the children.
It's very difficult. It is like I've never represent people going through divorces, but it's that type of emotional transaction.
Yeah.
And they don't get along all the time.
They don't get along. And the hard part for me is that we have such accessibility to the realtor and the communication, but then there's also an attorney involved that you might not get any communication out of, or it all has to be in writing, or it has to be a set time. To me, that's the hardest part about a probate is the communication with the attorney.
And I think having a lender and a realtor that is used to working in that environment is really important.
Well, you can't do it with an attorney. There's nothing that's going to happen at the last minute. Like the day that the lender closing is involved, that's when I'm making the request, and it's a polite factor. This is not. I think sometimes you and I live in this world that we can just demand things and they happen because we're in control of it. But the second you step outside of that, it's like I learned really quick, like, oh, I'm not the center of this.
The more gears you have involved, the harder it gets, right?
Yeah.
Well, Kim, I've just appreciated you being on the show. so much. Can you let us know where listeners can
Yeah.
find you?
One, I think you can find me on Google, right? Like Cam Villa, Sacramento, or Cam Villa Mortgage. I'm right there. My company's name is Golden Bay Mortgage Group. We've been in the Sacramento area for over 10 years. We're licensed to do business solely in California right now. We're starting to open up to Nevada and Tennessee. Those are the next states that we're looking into. Other than that, I'm a member of my community. I like to think I'm easy to find. And if someone wants to learn more about the home ownership process, again, I say get started as early as you can, but they can get a hold of me at 916-233-7664.
Cam, I really enjoy you. I just think you bring such a unique personality and just energy, and you're not boring by any
Oh my
means.
gosh, I had such a great time. And honestly, 5 years ago, Jim Poita told me that I had to reach out to you and hear your story. And that's honestly where this all started.
Well, as I said, I've been a guest on your podcast. Cam's podcast is great. Like and subscribe to it. It's called House Keys. And thanks, Cam, once again for
Thank
being
you
a guest.
so much.
Until next time, thank you for listening to the Thoughtful Realtor in Sacramento, where thoughtful guidance and local expertise support your most important real estate decisions. If you found this episode valuable, please like, subscribe on your favorite platform, whether Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, and share it with a friend. I appreciate you being here. Clarity, strategy, thoughtful execution.